Hello, this is George Hutton, and you are listening to the Mind Persuasion Podcast. Today we continue our study of Weaponized Hypnosis. For more information, please visit mindpersuasion.com/weaponized-hypnosis. In today's podcast, we'll be talking about where to use these skills. When you learn martial arts, it's not a difficult consideration where you might use them. In a tournament, anywhere that somebody threatening approaches you. But when can you use weaponized language or hypnosis? As we go through this guide and learn about the structure of language, you'll find many areas to use these. And each of these areas are places where your confidence alone may preclude your enemies from using aggressive techniques in the first place. Physical aggression is very easy to spot. Even somebody who is intending to use physical aggression is easy to spot. But some folks are experts in very subtle and very vicious linguistic tricks. Most of those folks aren't using those techniques consciously, just some are more naturally vicious with their language. Unfortunately, there is much more low-key social aggression delivered through subtle language techniques than most people realize. Let's look at a few of the less than obvious cases. General social aggression. Sometimes people say things that make us feel uncomfortable, but we don't know why. Or they may ask us questions that make us feel on the spot, but we aren't sure how to remove that feeling. Sometimes we are purposely put on the spot in front of others just to take us down a notch, just like the stereotypical schoolyard bully. These folks using these aggressive techniques because the only way they can feel better about themselves is if they put us down. Because this is happening linguistically and almost always unconsciously, it's very subtle. One of the main reasons it's so effective is that most people only feel a bit on the defensive without really knowing why. Some people just have a talent that lets them rub somebody the wrong way on purpose. But once you learn these techniques, you'll know exactly how they are doing it, even if they don't. This means when you ask one or two simple and innocent-sounding questions, they won't be able to respond, and all the attention will be back on them. Passive aggression. Most of us are passive-aggressive to some extent. Being assertive is difficult, so we often rely on very passive statements that intend to deliver a small amount of emotional damage to the other person. These come across as snide remarks, and they are almost always said with a built-in plausible deniability. Often it's how they are said that's so unnerving about them. Luckily, there are some very easy ways to take that negative emotion they just flung at us and flip it right back around. Defense against imposed beliefs. We humans are very tricky at imposing our belief systems on others. We all have a huge collection of beliefs, mostly subconscious. Most of us don't know what these are, but they come out how we communicate, how we talk about ourselves, our relations to others and other groups of people, organizations, political systems, etc. One common and wholly subconscious technique is when somebody communicates to us in a way that they feel elicits an agreement with their belief system. Then later we do something that contradicts that belief system, which they believe we agree to. Then they act violated and say something like, "But we talked about this and we agreed that you would do this," or something equivalent. The trouble with arguing about this after the fact is they actually believe we had an actual discussion and an actual agreement. In their mind, any discussion at this point would make it look like we are going back on our word. The only way to defend against this common and unconscious technique is to call out the belief in the first place. This is very easy, and it's actually very helpful if you use this with somebody you are in a relationship with. You'll kind of train them to think twice before making assumptions, which they will interpret as a means of strengthening your relationship. But if you use this against your enemies, you can be as vicious as you like. Boundary defense. Ideally, we should just be able to calmly state our boundaries and they would be accepted. An ideal relationship would be where each party calmly and confidently can discuss each other's boundaries. We would have mutual respect and appreciation for each other, and we would be willing to work within each other's stated boundaries. But meanwhile, back here on Earth, that never happens. People tend to try and see how far they can push past our boundaries. The techniques in this podcast will be like having an army of vicious guard dogs ready to eat any intruders alive who step 1 inch beyond your boundaries. Of course, you might want to go easy on your family, friends, and loved ones whom you'd like to remain in a relationship with. But with your enemies, the message will be clear. Your boundaries represent private property, and trespassers will be shot. Unwanted hierarchical advances. This is something that happens every time 2 people get together. We'll go into much more detail later why this is, but every time somebody gives you unasked for advice, tries to show you up in front of others, or make you feel that you are lesser than them, it is an unconscious attempt on their part to demonstrate higher social value than you. Often this is incredibly subtle, but it's always there. Humans are hierarchical animals, both from a biological theoretical standpoint and from a real-world organizational standpoint. Where we stand on the social hierarchy with respect to others is deeply important to each one of us. Whenever anybody tries to assert their social status, however subtle and subconsciously, you'll have the skills to knock them back down and make sure they never try that again. Sever relationships. Sometimes you just need to get rid of somebody, and not get rid of them and bury them out in the desert, but make them leave you alone. Dale Carnegie teaches us that you can get anybody to do anything so long as you make them think it was their idea. Luckily, you'll learn some very powerful techniques that will make anybody never ever want to see you again. Friends that you don't want to be friends with, salespeople that keep bothering you at home, or anybody else that you want to be gone from your life will be gone because they want to be gone. Stalker Elimination. Sometimes you've got an ex that just hasn't got the memo. They still think you are together, or they think you are together when in reality you've never been anywhere alone with them. Even if they have the wildest romantic fantasies about you, within a few minutes conversation, they'll never ever want to see you again. Attempted manipulation. A kind of common idea in movies is when the good guy has a gun and it's pointed at the bad guy. Everybody knows he's the bad guy, but he's trying to pretend to be the good guy. He's trying to sweet-talk the good guy into giving up his gun. Usually the bad guy is a hardened killer and the good guy has never harmed anybody in his life. The scene is usually where the good guy is shaking, trying to work up the courage to shoot. The bad guy is telling him it's okay, he doesn't have to do this, etc. But then the good guy shoots, only there aren't any bullets in the gun. This, of course, enrages the bad guy. How dare you try to kill me? Many of us find ourselves in similar situations, only not with guns, but attempted manipulation. Somebody else is trying to get us to do something and we almost fall for it and then realize they were trying to take advantage of us. Kind of like pulling the trigger and finding out there aren't any bullets. How do you respond in this situation? Here you are, sitting with somebody who is being really nice to you, but you've just found out they don't care anything about you. They were just trying to get you to do something so that they would benefit. Sometimes you might even suffer horrible consequences while they benefit. That somebody would do this is extremely cold-hearted. Most people, were they in this situation, would be thankful we didn't follow through, but knowing somebody was just about to put us into a horrible situation doesn't feel good. Even though we don't follow through, we still feel vulnerable. That there are people in the world that would gladly con you into doing something which may get you hurt, in jail, or even killed, just so they could benefit, all the while sweet-talking you is a horrible thought. It's very difficult to recover from this, even if you didn't go through with it. But soon you will have a powerful weapon at your ready, a powerful set of tools to use on them, if you like, that will make them wish they'd never met you. You will be able to implant thoughts into their mind that will give them nightmares, to forget who they are, to forever have trouble concentrating. To be sure, this is not recommended, quite the opposite. Ideally, you will never, ever even contemplate using these, but just knowing that you can, in just a few minutes, obliterate the emotional well-being of somebody, much like martial arts can be used to kill if needed, with only your words will make you have extreme confidence. And it is that confidence that will make it difficult for the worst manipulators on earth to even maintain eye contact with you. Just knowing these skills will give you an incredible sense of power few people ever realize. I'm George Hutton. Thank you for listening to the Mind Persuasion Podcast. For more information, please visit mindpersuasion.com/weaponized-hypnosis. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.